This podcast is brought to you by Reimagine Radio, the online radio station that aims to give you information on disability and music. My name's Graham Wyman, and I'm the program coordinator with the Vancouver Adapted Music Society. I'm joined again today by Greg, 77 Spokes Labine, and Dave Simonton. How are you guys doing today?
Good, thanks for having us.
Well, that's good. Thank you for joining us again. Continuing on with our line of questioning, and I mean a very important one, Greg, how did you get involved with VAMS, and do you remember when you and Dave met?
Yeah, I mean, exactly when Dave and I met, I'm not 100% sure. It might have been when we were in the studio for the first time.
Okay.
But I remember how I was introduced to VAMS.
Okay.
And that was actually when I was working with Sarah Lapp, who was a community connector at the time with Disability Foundation, with Connectra. And Sarah was like helping me, I think it was to find work and get involved in the community back in 2013. And we might have been dancing together as well. I'm not sure if it was with Real Wheels at that point or not, but anyway, she was like, did you know, Greg, that we have a studio? I mean, Vancouver Adapted Music Society has a studio that you can have access to and record your songs for free. And I was like, what? Is this really true? Like, I couldn't believe it. And it sounded cool. And she connected me with Dave, and I went in and started recording.
Do you guys remember the first song that you guys recorded? I know that's kind of a secondary question, but...
I don't know. I'm surprised it was 2013. I feel like I've known you a lot longer than that.
Yeah.
But
I think it was.
Not that I'm tired of you, but
yeah, really.
now I have no idea what the first song was, to be honest, but I think we probably... I mean, Greg tends to work in bunches, so sometimes we would work, do more than one song at a time. Mm-hmm. He would lay down the main tracks and then do the backing tracks and some ad-lib tracks and, just kind of line things up. And it was a pretty, you send me the beat, and then I'd put it in the Logic program, and then we'd just work from there, get the mic set up for you, and just go.
Right.
So it seemed to me sometimes we worked on more than one song in one session.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. We worked on a few songs at a time, and I did like probably a couple albums worth, I think, with you, Dave, and in that studio. And I love that electronic switch that brings the mic up and down. That's cool.
Yeah.
We still have that apparatus in the new studio, so no, we'll definitely be getting that installed when the construction on, first of all, the new studio is finished, but once we're allowed to go back into GF.
Nice. And I'd love to see that new studio set up too.
Yeah.
I don't think I've been there.
Yeah, no, we're just at a point right now, Greg, where, and this is for our listeners, I guess, as well, but where the construction will be happening this year. So very exciting.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. And as you said, like, I know Dave has helped produce and record some of your vocal tracks. Can you guys kind of describe your working process?
Well, I go in with my lyric sheet and put it up on a stand or where I can see it. And then I'm facing the other way. Dave is behind me on the master controls, and we just press record, and Dave sets up the tracks, and I just go on the mic. And I don't know what Dave thinks about this, Dave, but I think I'm very serious when I record, and I'm actually sometimes too serious, but I get really focused, and I love it so much. It's like I get in flow mode, and I'm just in that flow where the energy is flowing, and I love recording so much. I just love it.
Yeah. Well, I love it too, and I think working with you, it's because we'd both have headphones on and we'd just kind of communicate that way. And if you'd say, no, let's just start that again because you might, have got ahead of yourself or didn't quite, deliver it the way you wanted to. But it's not like you had to do a lot of takes. Sometimes you just do one take or you doing. So we'd do these tracks and then we'd listen back and then, Greg would tell me, like, do you, like whether we wanted something louder here or softer there or take that part out. Sometimes we would cut things up and layer things so that you'd have like harmony tracks and various things like that. But it was really, we may have ended up, aside from the beat track, we may have had 8 or 9 or 10 vocal tracks, which sounds like a lot, but it was really quite, once I figured out how that process worked, I think we got more efficient at it the more we did it. And you always came in prepared. So and I just love that, being locked into that zone of recording and nailing things. Like it's always kind of, when the process is over, it's a bit anticlimactic because there's something really special in the process that's different than just having the product. Like if you have a good working relationship and it's fun and it's productive, I don't know many things that are better than that other than jamming.
And I just want to kind of touch on what you just said, Dave, but how did working with Greg, help you evolve as a producer? As you said, you guys would do 8, 9 tracks at the beginning, but, you obviously kind of made a well-oiled machine as you guys went on. But how did that kind of, add to...
Well, I think I'm guessing in the beginning, I hadn't done a lot of that before. And so I was still learning. I'm still learning now, obviously, but, like how to cut and paste and edit and move things around and add reverb or EQ and all. Like it just helped me get more efficient and more accustomed to the program. So I think the more we worked together, the more efficient we got, in a way, because the last thing that somebody that comes in that's prepared wants to do is wait for you to figure out how to do something. There is a learning curve, and
for sure.
But I don't think we had that problem very many times, to be honest. I think at the end of every session we had accomplished something and were satisfied with it. It wasn't like, I don't remember ever leaving and going, well, hopefully next time we can figure this out. Like you do with some people where they're not really clear about what they want to do. So it's oftentimes there's a lot more back and forth and trial and error. But I think with Greg, like he said, when he's practicing to the beat at home and figuring out what he wants, he knows pretty much 100% what he wants to do. It's just a matter of facilitating getting that done.
Gotcha.
Nice.
And then Greg, we touched on this in the last segment that we had, but I've seen you and I've performed with you as a band and with backing tracks. What do you feel the differences are, and do you have a preference?
I think it's totally different. I don't know what my preference is. I love performing with a band. It's a different kind of experience. It's more, it's so cliche to say the word organic, but it's more like free-flowing and anything can happen, like little freestyle riffs or at the end of a song you just go on and on for a bit. And then you throw in some extra words or repeat a word over and over at the end or something. And that kind of thing doesn't happen as much in a solo performance.
Right.
And most of my performing, though, has been solo with backing tracks and just me. Like, I'm the only one on stage. I did have that group I was in, Reverse Priorities, but back then there was 4 of us with backing tracks, but ever since then, it's just been me. So you get used to being the only one and having that control.
Right.
So that's kind of nice. But I also would love to try some more live band stuff. And I actually have a recording of us when we were jamming. I think it was at VAMS studio.
Okay.
Not, it wasn't a live show at the moment. The recording I got, we were in the studio just jamming,
Right.
and I did a song. Um, like the hook was like, "It's so nice to know you. It's so nice to be alive. It's so nice to have you by my side, and that's why I want to grow old with you. I want to always hold you close and console you until we grow old. Yeah, all right." And it just kind of goes on. It goes like that, and we jammed it, and you guys played, and it's such a good recording. The energy is. I actually just recorded a version of that, and I'm releasing it soon, but
Okay.
it's still not quite. It's not quite like that live jam we did. That's unbeatable.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, no, that's definitely exciting. When will that be
Yeah.
Yeah.
released? Or do you?
It's I'm calling it By My Side,
Mm-hmm.
and it's for Lucy,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna do it probably in a couple weeks. Our anniversary is March 28th,
Okay.
so it'll be 6 years of being married, and I'm gonna release it just before then, so probably in a couple weeks.
Well, congratulations to the both of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, 6 years already. Wow.
Yeah,
I remember when you were, wasn't Lucy in Calgary for a while, and then you were going back and forth. And
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
That's right. Yeah.
I always remember that time we had dinner on Commercial Drive, and I remember the elevator was down, and I had to. You guys were waiting and waiting.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Finally showed up. It was that Indian restaurant on Commercial, but I think I was like an hour and a half late.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that I remember
Sorry
that
about
time.
that.
That's okay.
It was like 4 years ago or something, probably.
We got to do it again. Yeah,
Yeah, we'll be able to do that soon.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I personally feel like when we did that show with Prevail, it was one of my favorite live
Oh yeah,
shows ever. There was something about the energy between the two of you. You just fed off each other. And for me, I just felt honored to be on the stage just to observe what was happening because it was just such high energy going on. And you
yeah.
guys
You
worked
were.
so well together. I just thought it was awesome.
Thank you. You were part of it, Dave. It was a trio,
Exactly.
and we all killed it. It was. But I fully agree with you. That was one of the best. I think it what might have been one of my best shows personally, and like Prevail was totally going back and forth across the stage like the whole time, like, and I was moving around in my chair, and
Yeah.
we were dominating, like we were commanding the crowd, like we just were matching each other's energy, and I felt honored too to be able to match someone like Prevail for a live performance like that, and I actually felt good about it because a lot of times I don't feel good about a performance for some reason, but
Hmm.
that one I loved too.
Well, that was
Yeah, I
easy.
watched it. I've watched it many times. If I'm feeling like, I don't know, feeling a little down or whatever, I sometimes will go to the van site and watch some vids. And that's one of the ones that I watch. I've probably seen it a dozen times.
Nice.
Well, no,
Just brings back all that positivity.
and that was easily one of the highlights of the 2018 Strong Sessions, gentlemen. And you're right, like the
True.
way that all three of you were able to command that was a very special moment.
Mm, true. Yeah.
Now, okay, so now we're into 2019, Greg, and you released an album and rebranded yourself as 77 Spokes. And I actually saw for the first time today your tattoo. I didn't notice that you
Oh
had
yeah.
one that says 77 Spokes. What is
Yeah.
the significance of that name, and what message do you hope is received from that particular record?
Okay, so the name 77 Spokes came about basically like I was Spokes all along
Mm-hmm.
from when I was 15
Yeah.
and just starting out in high school. They called me Spokes. But then I also worked with this guy I mentioned before in Ontario who makes most of my beats,
Right.
and we were called Collide.
Okay.
So that was the name we were going to use moving forward in around 2019, Collide. But then I met with an industry guy who has worked with a lot of up and coming artists in Vancouver and stuff, and he suggested to me to not use Collide.
Hmm.
And I said, why? Yeah, I said, what's wrong with Collide? He said, well, when somebody searches the word Collide in Google or Spotify or whatever, a lot of people come up, a lot of names of songs. Even in the Christian artist community, there's probably another Collide or something.
Okay.
And so you're not going to get, your name's not going to come up. So I said, oh, I can't remember what that's called. There's a word for that theory. But anyway, um, so I said, what should I be? He said, well, you got to choose. And I said, well, I like Spokes. And then I thought, why not 77 Spokes? And he said, I love it. He said, that's really good. But the reason I came up with 77 Spokes is because it's actually a biblical reference.
Okay.
So in the, there's a part in the Bible where Peter says to the Lord, like, how many times if my brother sins against me, should I forgive him? 7 times? And the Lord's like, no, not 7 times. I tell you 70 times 7,
Hmm.
which is symbolic for infinity.
Right.
So it's like infinite number of times, like, because the Lord forgives us every time we fail, every time we fall short. He forgives us for everything we do wrong. So we should also forgive other people the same. And it's an important message. So that's how I got 77 Spokes.
Well, that's fantastic. I had no idea that it was what that was about. For some reason I thought, I don't know, maybe you were born that year or
That's what I
I
thought.
didn't
That's
know.
what I thought too.
No, 78. 78.
Okay.
Well, I was close,
Yeah.
but that 77's got a lot more meaning to it, so that's really appropriate.
I want more
Yeah.
weight too. No, that's
I
fantastic.
love that message.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so sorry, just tying back into the record. Um,
Yeah.
I guess there, if I remember correctly, there were 9 tracks on the record.
Yeah. Yeah.
And kind of, if you don't mind, as a whole, what was the kind of process on that particular one, especially with the rebranding and everything?
Well, we were trying to like come out with something fresh,
Mm-hmm.
and so songs of hope and again of love and faith. It is those similar topics that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
But so the topic never really changed from before, but the beats were new ones that I had picked from my friend there in Ontario, and he wanted. I mean, he sent a lot of different beats, like probably 50 or 60 beats over about a year's time, and we chose the best ones. Um, I mean, and decided on the best songs for each one. And I showed him what I would do on each song because I would record it on my iPhone and then send it to him on email.
Mm-hmm.
So he could hear essentially what I would be recording if and when I would go to the studio and record that.
Right.
So it's like we get a good idea of what each other's doing before actually going to the studio and spending the money. So it's a good way on the iPhone to do that. Of course, the quality is not great, but anyway, yeah, it was sort of that kind of same message as usual, but a different name, a different brand, and the cover design I really liked because I had a friend do that. My wife Lucy works, or I don't know, she worked before with a Korean girl, and she's an artist, and she did the cover design for that album, and she's actually doing the cover art for this song coming up that I'm releasing in a couple weeks as well.
Okay. Nice. And
Yeah.
then, so moving to now 2021, At the moment, you and Dave are working on the next Real Wheels production. Um, when will that be released? And maybe you can give our listeners a little teaser on what the production is on this one.
I'm trying to remember. Do you remember, was the show date, Dave, was it May 5th is the show? Or for Tune In?
Uh, I don't actually remember, to be honest. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There's kind of a flood of emails going around, but it'll be coming up, and we'll be posting it. It'll be all over Facebook and other social media. So, but
yeah, they'll promote it.
Yeah, I think when it started, because at the time it started, we were all meeting in person.
Right.
And then when COVID came, we slowly transitioned into what was really just a get together once a week, just as kind of a support group and check-in thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then we started reworking on the show and figured out a way to do it virtually.
Okay.
So my main part, I guess, was I had written some lyrics on that theme just as some idea, but they kind of went with that. We made a few changes. And Greg, I don't know at what point, you were probably brought in early as well. How did that happen for you?
Yeah, I was brought in early. I was commissioned to do a song, and which is such an amazing experience. And then I recorded and had a song mixed and mastered and got a beat for it and everything. And so that song has come out well, and it's part of the show as well. So I'm excited about that. The show is going to be great.
And I heard from another VAMS musician who's a part of the show, Brandon, that Greg, you're closing out the show?
Yes, closing out the show. Last song is my song, but we're also all on it.
Okay,
so it's not just me. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that's something we've been practicing lately, is where everybody else in the cast will emphasize certain words in the song at certain points in the chorus and so forth. So they're just kind of working on their timing and getting that down.
And that must
it'll be fun.
Well, that must be quite difficult too, given everyone's online too, right? To coordinate that, it must be quite a process.
It poses a challenge.
It is a challenge. Yeah, a lot of emails.
Right. No, I'm sure it'll turn out great though, and I know I'm looking forward to it. But and this will be the last question for this section or this segment. But on the date that we're recording this podcast, it's almost been a year to the day that the world shut down. What are the both of you most excited about for the future of your music in general?
For me, I would say it's back to shows, getting back to doing shows, and not having to wear a mask to go to the studio, and while in the studio, worrying about interacting with people everywhere we go to do the music and make the music we love and perform the music we love, all in between and coming and going, to not have to be worried anymore. That's it for me.
Pretty much ditto for me, to get back in the studio, to be able to play with people, do some shows, and have jam sessions, and hopefully get back to supporting some other people and doing some volunteer production work in the studio and that sort of thing. So yeah, there's been a big gap for a lot of people in music and the arts, and being able to participate and do what they do. So we're adapting, but we're hoping to get back to it.
Well, I know for myself, I can't wait to see the two of you on stage again. But
that'll be good.
Yeah.
That'll be good.
And so
Yeah.
to take us out on this last segment, we are going to be playing Greg's song, No Data. So Greg, maybe again, if you don't mind, could you tell our listeners maybe about your creative process and how you kind of came around with this one?
Sure. So this one is this is a beat by my friend in Ontario, and it's something that we wrote back in 2018, which was maybe ahead of its time because the topic is, I think, relevant today as well, because it's just about getting outside. Once we're good to go here, we're going to be able to get back out there, enjoy nature, get off our phones, get off our computers, get off our Zoom calls, and get back into real living. And so this is a positive take on that.
Mm-hmm. And you did a music video for this song as well. And can our listeners find that on YouTube?
Yeah, all you have to do is search 77 Spokes, No Data, and there's a music video there, official video that I did.
Okay. And where can our listeners find your music? What platforms are they on?
So most of my albums, if not all of them, are on, if you search 77 Spokes, mm-hmm. And then go to Spotify or Deezer or Amazon or Apple Music or YouTube or iTunes or any digital platform, anywhere digital, mm-hmm. you can search 77 Spokes. And then I have one album that's under the name Greg Spokes Labine. Okay. But yeah, that's the only one on that one, but they're mostly 77 Spokes.
Okay. Well, great. So check out 77 Spokes. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time again to join us and our listeners today on Reimagine Radio. And,
thank you for having us.
Can't wait again to get out in person and see you guys play live.
Sounds good.
Thanks really enjoyed it.
Dave.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And again, to our listeners, stay safe, take care, and keep that music flowing. Thanks. Bye.
Interacting, nowadays just internet acting. Wow, crazy. All we ever do is portray these perfect lives immersed in paradise. Smiling wave, that photo's great, but scared inside, things we can't face. Paralyzed by fear, man-made, coming off fake every day. Little bit of love stashed away, even though little with doubts, clicking the mouse. Like or laugh, figure it out, yet stuck in depression, sitting around. No effort now, communication severed and drowned. Out by lies, a divided civilization standing by. Got no space, too much waste. Can you relate to the truth I chase? Hands are tied, nations feuding, dispute over pride. News headlines, need a change, these are the signs. Everybody better stop and shine. Got a lot on the line, let's wake up and go outside. There's no feeling greater than when you wake up saying, see you later, see where this day will take ya, yeah. Don't need no data, no phone, no pager, no. Ain't gonna sit alone on my computer at home. I'm all about going out in nature with the green trees and brown ground beneath me, yeah. Don't need a 3D movie to see these. We surrounded by mountains, deep blue sea. Got it down to a science. Look down at her phone, total reliance. I'm dying to know though, if you got no attention, would you fly solo? Would you still send out promo? Or get offline, go out and do more shows? Look at the correlation between Facebook notifications and the will to succeed. If we don't get love, we don't really believe in ourselves, all about getting clout. I'm done, I'm out. I wanna sit out in the sun, not smoking, not drinking, not thinking about anyone. Just soak up the rays, let it flow like the good old days. There's no feeling greater than when you wake up saying, see you later, see where this day will take ya, yeah. Don't need no data, no phone, no pager, no. Ain't gonna sit alone on my computer at home. I'm all about going out in nature with the green trees and brown ground beneath me, yeah. Don't need a 3D movie to see moving. Wanna ride on a plane in the sky to Hawaii, straight high. I wanna feel the warmth of the sun penetrating the pores of my skin within. I wanna swim in the shores on a board with friends, have fun, laugh and shout and sing. I wanna do all these things, important to me, cause I'm a human being.